ahead and let's rapid fire off some questions for Kris. So, Josh, what questions did you have for Kris?
How long was this whole process, and what was the most challenging part?
The process is still ongoing. I'm still writing the book, still conducting interviews. I've got an interview tomorrow, actually, with Tarantula, who was the first women's Dragon Star champ. You don't even see her fight in the series, so I'm going to figure out why she never actually featured. So process is still ongoing. It started in May of last year. Most challenging part has been just getting in touch with the different cast members and crew members, especially because I don't have a background in martial arts. I don't have a background in TV. So it's kind of been one door opens because, Chris Casamassa said, yes, here, why don't you talk to Herb Perez? That's not how it happened, but just for example. So basically, I'm getting a lot of help from a lot of different people because they believe that the show's story needs to be told. So the hardest part has just been tracking down people. There's still people I haven't been able to make contact with. So that's kind of been the difficult part.
Yeah, I bet getting a hold of any stars in general is just ridiculously difficult. We've tried, and it's even when you don't think that they're that big in the space, they're still notoriously difficult to get in touch with. So I can totally understand that.
It's so hard. And so kind of following Josh's question, like when writing this, what were some really, really interesting like trivia or some facts that stood out to you?
Oh, wow. Trivia. Finding out that they shot overnight at Universal, because obviously people were in the park during the day, but it just never occurred to me. They would shoot like 12, 14-hour nights overnight. They would start shooting right as the park closed, and as sun would be coming up, they'd be breaking. So wow, that was really interesting. The fact that the ninjas, who they fight, a lot of those ninjas are just the other cast members under the hoods. They had a few people who would come in to kind of fill out the ranks, but yes. The ninjas would be, if Red Dragon's fighting Superstar, then you'd have Olympus and Panther and Tsunami and Kid Carmichael. Sometimes the ladies would be under the hoods too. You'd have Baby Doll and Lady Lightning under the hoods. Lady Lightning, Christine Bannon Rodriguez, told me a story how she was a ninja and Hakeem Olsen was in the main fight, and he's because they're fighting, it's choreographed, but they're still making contact at times, and he got her real good, and they called cut, and he goes to check on her, and she goes, "Oh, Hakeem, it's me," and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." But so finding out that the ninjas were also the face characters, as they called themselves, was a fun piece of trivia as well.
Wow,
that makes sense when you mentioned the budget constraints too.
Yeah. You read my mind, because that was going to be my second question. Is like, with the budget constraints, how did they afford all these ninjas? Like when you're watching, I forget what the fight was when they're going all over the stands and everything. Yeah. And you're seeing like 40 ninjas. I'm like, what are they doing? It makes sense now. They just kept recycling like the same 7 guys through.
Yeah. They had a few people who would play just ninjas. Some of those people were on tap to be promoted to main characters at some point. A lot of those guys went on to have really big careers. Clayton Barber is a major Hollywood fight choreographer now. He's an assistant director and choreographer now. He was one of the ninjas, and he was going to be promoted, quote, to a main character. His character was going to be Hollywood, and it was going to be kind of a Johnny Cage style character. His key symbol, Hollywood's key symbol, is actually one of the 4 key symbols you get in the Dragon Belt toy, and they included it in there not really to tease his arrival, but Norman Grossfeld, the show creator, said they always wanted to find ways to make the show feel bigger, to make the show feel like there were other fighters other than the ones you saw, that were maybe away from the competition, kind of cycling in and out.
So kind of almost creating a universe.
Yeah, they always wanted it to feel bigger than just the 20 people they had, or however many.
That is super smart. I like that.
Yeah,
that goes along with my next question too. Who do you think ended up being the most successful after that show?
Most successful in terms of like a Hollywood career, or
in terms of continuing to act and do fight choreography? And
I mean, Larry Lamb is still working. He's crazy busy. He was really hard to get a hold of. Larry Lamb's done a lot of stuff. He was in one of the Fast and the Furious movies. He's got a big old long list of credits. Bridget Riley has been a stunt double in literally anything you can think of. She was in Dollhouse. She was in Watchmen, the movie. She's been in like a bajillion things. Sophia Crawford, who played Chameleon in season 2, she was stunt double for Sarah Michelle Gellar on Buffy. Herb Perez didn't really continue. He still teaches martial arts, but he went into politics. He was a lawyer.
Really?
He had a law degree at the time of the show, so he went into politics. And I think he might still be involved in politics. Eric Betts continued after his injury to go on to do stuff. Like they all went on. No one had an unsuccessful career. It's just a lot of them didn't really do on camera things. I know Ho Young Pak, Star Warrior. He apparently is now the CEO of a major tech company. Like
Really?
he was apparently just finishing his doctorate as was on the show, and he's a CEO of a major tech company. He's like crazy smart. So
Wow.
a lot of people went in a lot of different directions. Carmichael Simon was one of the founders of the like martial arts dance. I don't know much about it besides what he's told me. Movement called tricking, and apparently the guys who won America's Got Talent with the masks and apparently those were all his people. So he's done
Jabberwockies and stuff.
those guys. Yes.
Oh wow!
Really?
Apparently he's done a ton in that space. So, they've all kind of gone on to do a lot of different
That's prolific.
things. Yeah.
So here's a question. Here's a question for you. Quick question. Favorite character?
Beat me to
Olympus.
it.
Olympus.
Olympus. Wow. Okay. Josh,
He was
same
my
question
favorite.
for you.
He was my favorite as a kid. I got to say him.
Okay. All right. Hey, you know what? But he's also the first Dragon Star that we see outside of
Yep.
Turbo.
Yep.
He's the first one. That was that first big one. And
Yep.
you know what? I was gonna kind of agree with you there. I was gonna say either Olympus or my secondary I have to go with Hakeem.
Yeah.
I love Hakeem. What about for you, Josh?
Definitely.
Who was your favorite?
The machine, 100%.
All right.
Hakeem
And
the
that's not
Machine.
necessarily my favorite interview. That was just my favorite character on the show as a kid. Like I can't pick a favorite interview because they've all been so crazy.
Really?
But not like crazy, like, oh my God, wild stories, but just I'm on the phone with Herb Perez, Jamie Webster Grey Wolf calls me up because he had an idea or he remembered something, I'm working closely with Willie the Bam Johnson on some things. And that's some really exciting stuff actually that we're getting ready to announce in a little bit. WMAC Masters fans will probably be very excited about, but I can't talk about yet. But it's not a week goes by like where I don't have a moment where I just go, this is my life now. Like it doesn't make any sense, but here we are.
That's so cool. Also, the other question that I had, and I was reading up on, maybe you can either dispel this or confirm it. Is it true that the siblings on the show weren't actually siblings, but there were siblings on the show?
So your question's confusing me, but I think I know what you're asking. So Ho Sung and Ho Young, Star Warrior and Superstar, are actually brothers. Those are legit brothers. Larry Lamb and Mike Chat, not siblings, just good friends, but they were listed as half brothers on the show. The internet lists Tiana Noguchi, who played Black Widow in season 2. She's the one who gives up the Dragon Star. And there's a story about her. We'll get to her in a second. They list her as Cyclone Yuji Noguchi, he's the guy who broke his leg. You see him in the back and he has one fight. They list them as brother and sister.
Really?
Yuji Noguchi told me they are not related. The reason I was asking him about this was because, and this is kind of something I haven't talked about a lot online, so this is kind of exclusive, not exclusive, but first kind of breaking here. Tiana Noguchi, the actress who plays Black Widow, doesn't exist. I cannot find a single record of her that is not linked to WMAC Masters. What? No one by that name is recorded in Florida. I have searched databases. I've had people with access that I don't have search things. No one on the show remembers much about her besides the fact she was there.
She's a ghost.
She is a ghost.
Wow.
If I didn't have video of her on the show, I would think that somebody was just lying to me and making her up. But so that's why we kind of ran on the Facebook page. There's a graphic I made. Do you know this woman? And I'm trying to get people to share it because I'm at the point where I'm trying to crowdsource this because no one on the cast or crew remembers. I'm someone who worked on the show. I'm working with her. She's trying to get me in contact with some of the crew side, and one of the people who worked on the financial side. Maybe they have some cast lists and receipts and stuff. But
Something.
there's basically, she's credited as Tiana Noguchi. Think it's a stage name because there's no records for her.
Yeah. Pseudonym or like you said, a stage name for it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There has to be some type of a payment record on something.
So the problem is 4Kids Entertainment, the company that made WMAC Masters, defunct, out of business, split up a billion different ways. Okay. Bandai, the toy company, I reached out to them very early on in the process for any information they had about the toys or anything. They told me they have no records of that property. Dude. They were the primary financiers. They have no records of that intellectual property. Apparently, Bandai went through a reshuffle at some point. Hasbro might own part of it. That's part of the reason why there's been no reboot is because for years it's been kind of a who owns what in the wake of 4Kids' demise. Because it was financed by Leisure Concepts, which is 4Kids Entertainment, and then Bandai.
Wow, that really makes sense. So, how much do you own, and what do you actually own of that?
Well, and on top of that, these people, with the exception of one or two, were using their real names. You can't own Willie the Bam Johnson.
Yeah.
You can't own his name. So, he still owns. They own their nicknames, they own their symbols.
Yeah,
things like
all of those things attributed to it.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. Yeah. So, because Turbo's name was what? Was that Pete?
Mike Bernardo.
There we go. Mike Bernardo.
Mike Bernardo. He is still teaching martial arts in his native Canada.
Wow. So they own Turbo, but when they're talking about Turbo, Mike Bernardo, they don't own that name to it.
Yep, exactly.
Oh,
interesting. So if they wanted to do a new line of action figures, they would have to sign new agreements and pay new royalties and things like that.
Yeah, whole new ball game. So at that point, you just redo a whole new show.
Probably so.
Wow. So you know what, Kris, I really want to thank you for spending some time with us here today.
Absolutely.
It has been a wonderful pleasure. If you can tell our followers where to follow you at.
Sure. So we are on Facebook at facebook.com/questforthedragonstar. We are on Twitter at twitter.com/WMAC Masters Book. And we are at Patreon at patreon.com/WMAC Masters Book.
All right, and I have one final question for you. If you had to tell somebody who's never seen the show your favorite episode or what episode you would like them to see for the first time, what episode would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would tell them to do the episode where they have the fight in the underground train with Hakeem and Ho-Sung fighting for the Dragon Star at the start of season 2. I think that's the best combo of the kind of season 1 where it was sporting based and season 2 where it was storyline based. I think just to give people, the flavor of the show and the characters and just the feel and vibe of the show, I think that's the one to go with.
Awesome. Kris, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. And we're looking forward to this book. Can you tell us
for real
when it might possibly be out?
My goal, so publishing is kind of in a weird state right now just because of COVID, and publishing is very, very slow in general. If I were to, everyone wants to be traditionally published by one of the big 5. You want your book in Barnes & Noble. If I were to try to go that route with this book wouldn't be out for 2 to 3 years from now. I'm leaning towards self-publishing because that means I can control when it comes out. If that's the case, if that's the route we go, I'm hoping to have it out by this fall, winter, to have it out by Black Friday and the holidays and things like that. There are 1 or 2 things kind of happening externally to me and my project, and I have to be very careful of how I say this here. There are 1 or 2 things happening external to me and my book that are in the WMAC Masters space that could have an impact on when and how my book comes out. Okay. I can say that the original concept creator has secured the rights to the show again. So I don't know where the efforts are at, but I have spoken to her. I've interviewed her. We're going to keep talking. I know there are efforts to bring the show back in some form or fashion. I don't know how far along. She's not ready to talk about it. But if the show were to be in process of coming back around when I would be wanting to release this, that might cause me, it might be like, okay, we're going to wait. We're going to talk about the relaunch and then go from there. If that happens, then that could conceivably delay it. If that doesn't happen, which, I think everybody wants the show to come back, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen, my goal is to kind of have it out by, October, November, moving into the holiday season.
Awesome. Awesome. Kris, thank you so much. And
hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, honestly.
This is my first piece of media I've done for this. This is the first media I've done for the book. So I'm really, really appreciative for you and your viewers and listeners for just giving me the time.
No, it's been an honor, and same on our part. This is our first real interview together.
Really?
We're all over.
Oh, you guys are great.
Thank you.